The haunting wail of the Jericho Trumpets echoed across the skies of World War II Europe, signaling the approach of the Junkers Ju-87, commonly known as the Stuka. Designed by Hermann Pohlmann, this German dive bomber made its first flight in 1935 and quickly became an emblem of Nazi Germany's air power. Recognizable by its inverted gull wings and fixed spatted undercarriage, the Stuka was armed with two 7.92mm MG-17 machine guns in each wing, and the rear gunner operated a 7.92mm MG-15 machine gun for defense. Mounted on its faired main gear legs were the infamous ram air sirens known as Jericho Trumpets. These sirens, more than just symbols of the Blitzkrieg victories between 1939 and 1942, provided a psychological weapon against the enemy and gave Stuka pilots audible feedback on their speed. The Ju-87 would play pivotal roles in early theaters of World War II, from the invasion of Poland to the Battle of Britain. Yet, as the war progressed, the Stuka eventually faced challenges from more advanced fighters like the Spitfire and Hurricane. However, German tacticians would ingeniously repurpose it, spreading a grim new shadow to any soul within its reach. As the legend goes, mythic World War I ace pilot Ernst Udet, the second highest scoring German fighter pilot of his time, had left military life behind and was living as a civilian. But by the time the Nazi Party was gaining momentum in Germany in 1935, Udet's path took him to a crucial moment that allegedly redefined World War II. One day, while in the USA, Udet attended the Cleveland Air Races. At this event, he witnessed the incredible performance of some American Navy aircraft, Curtiss F-11 C-2 Goshawk biplanes, executing simulated dive-bombing attacks. These aircraft were like nothing he had seen before, and their maneuvers left him in awe. Around the same time, another World War I ace who climbed the political ladder, Hermann Göring, wanted to bring Udet back into the world of aviation, particularly in the newly re-established German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. Göring, aware that Udet was captivated by the American aircraft types, arranged for two similar aircraft, export versions of Hawk IIs, to be brought to Germany for Udet to use. Thus, he became a champion of the concept. Likewise, the demonstrators played a key role in making dive bombing central to Luftwaffe doctrine, mainly in support of ground forces. In turn, the discovery would help inform the development of a new type. It's often said that Udet took these aircraft and showcased their diving and bombing abilities at air shows across Germany, impressing the Luftwaffe leaders and convincing them of the effectiveness of such tactics. According to the story, Udet and his love for American aircraft were the catalyst for the creation of an aircraft that would reinvent the dive bomber role altogether. The truth was a bit different. By the time Udet saw the American dive bombers, the design for the German version was already in progress, even though it hadn't been physically built yet. While Udet did perform exciting aerobatics with the aircraft he didn't actually perform airshow dive bombings, as the legend suggests. Nevertheless, Udet did strongly believe in the concept of vertical bombing, where planes would dive directly into their targets. Enter the Junkers Ju-87 Sturzkampfflugzeug, better known as the Stuka, or simply dive bomber, the most famous of its kind throughout and after the war. It was a low-wing design with a single engine and signature fixed and spatted undercarriage, mainly used to drop bombs with great accuracy. Indeed, it borrowed the technique from the US Navy, where it would dive steeply towards its target and release its bombs at a low altitude for better precision. The Ju-87 had special features to make it more effective. Equipped with brakes to slow down its dive, the pilot was allowed more time to aim the aircraft and drop the bomb accurately. The Stuka also had special racks for the bombs, which would swing down and out to avoid hitting its own propellers when the bombs were released. As for armament, the Ju-87 was mounted with machine guns, some operated by a gunner in the back seat. Besides, the Stuka could carry different-sized bombs under its fuselage and wings, making it versatile for different types of attacks. Still, Udet's contribution to the Stuka's development was related to its survival. At one point, a high-ranking officer named Wolfram von Richthofen outright canceled the Ju-87 Stuka program. He thought the slow and cumbersome type, diving straight toward anti-aircraft guns, wouldn't stand a chance. But as fate would have it, Udet ended up taking Richthofen's position the next day, and one of his first decisions ensuring the Stuka project continued. So while Udet and his American inspiration didn't quite birth the Stuka, as the legend says, his influence was still instrumental in shaping its destiny. Dive bombing was an intense endeavor, placing immense physical and intellectual strain upon the pilots who undertook it. Prior to embarking on a bombing run, Stuka crews were tasked with navigating an intricate and almost dizzying checklist. First, the crew would meticulously set the landing flaps to the cruise position, adjusting the elevator and rudder trim to the same setting. The contact altimeter, a crucial instrument for precise timing, was switched on and precisely calibrated to the desired release altitude. The supercharger, a mechanical aid to the engine's performance at different altitudes, was configured to automatic mode, while the throttle was pulled back to its fully closed position. Attention would then shift to the cooler flaps, which were carefully closed to manage the engine's temperature. As the tension in the cockpit mounted, the dive brakes were set open, ready to play a pivotal role. Upon the activation of the dive brakes, the Stuka's distinctive nose automatically pitched downward, like a predatory bird zeroing in on its target. The aircraft then plunged at an astonishing rate, with the maximum threshold reaching a staggering 600 kilometers per hour. But the climax of the mission was only about to happen. The instant the bombs were unleashed, the contact altimeter's warning light illuminated with an imminent warning. So the pilot manipulated a knob on the control column, thus engaging an automatic pull-out mechanism, averting a catastrophic collision just in time, with forces 6 times the weight of gravity subjecting the pilot to the brink of unconsciousness. Introduced at the time of the Spanish Civil War, Stukas were part of the German contingent known as the Condor Legion. In 1936, the experimental Ju-87 was discreetly deployed to support nationalist forces, marking the aircraft's first combat involvement. Full-scale deployments followed in the ensuing months, with Stukas remaining in service to aid Francisco Franco's cause until early 1939. Notably, one aircraft was lost during this period, providing valuable insights to the Luftwaffe regarding the Ju-87's dive-bombing capabilities. Later, during the German invasion of Poland, the Ju-87s were extensively utilized in Case White, completing nearly 6,000 sorties, with a loss of only 31 planes. Stukas played a crucial role in decimating opposition forces by dropping 100-pound fragmentation bombs, often followed by low-altitude strafing runs using machine guns. Nevertheless, the Stuka's most distinctive attribute was the incorporation of wind-driven sirens on the landing gear and bombs, which generated an unnerving sound. While most dive bombers aimed for stealth, the Germans took a bolder route with the Ju-87 Stuka, confident in its precision and power. On the battered grounds of Dunkirk, with British troops already on edge, a new terror took to the skies. A nightmarish wail pierced the smoky air, escalating rapidly into an ear-splitting scream, marking the descent of the German Stukas. Soldiers had heard tales of the German Stukas and their ghastly sirens, the so-called Jericho Trumpets, but nothing could prepare them for the chilling experience. The terrifying shriek seemed to drown out all other sounds, consuming their senses. It wasn't just an attack. It was a calculated act of psychological warfare, turning the skies of Dunkirk into a zone of pure dread and despair. The terror caused by the warplanes and their haunting sound was no accident. The Jericho Trumpets were a deliberate addition to the Stuka, representing the German military's intent to inflict physical and mental harm. As the plane dived, its sirens emitted a distinct, horrifying sound, branding the Nazi air raids into the memories of their adversaries. The sirens were used throughout various campaigns in World War II, starting with the invasion of Poland in 1939 and becoming the soundtrack of the Blitzkrieg. Their maddening sound became a usual dread as France, Denmark, and Norway fell. As the Stuka dove towards its target, the specially designed propeller-driven sirens would emit a terrifying wailing noise. This became an auditory signature of the Nazi air assault in the early stages of the war, combined with the visual spectacle of the aircraft's steep dive to create a multisensory experience of terror. The Stuka's effectiveness wasn't just about its sirens. Its unique design, the ability to deliver significant destruction, and its coordination with other air units made it a dominant force on the battlefield. The lethal combination of firepower and psychological terror turned the airplane into one thing in the head of Allied soldiers: imminent destruction. The harrowing wailing became overwhelmingly successful in the initial phases of the war, their sound causing panic and disarray among enemy troops and civilians alike. However, as the war progressed, the shock value diminished, and some pilots even removed the sirens to improve aerodynamics. Despite their decline in military effectiveness, the haunting experience they created lingers in the collective memory of World War II, sharing the spotlight with other harrowing whaling machines, such as Stalin's Organ and the T-34 Calliope. As the war progressed, the Luftwaffe's Stukas encountered significant challenges. After years of dominating its opponents and raining fire over Allied targets with little opposition while sowing terror amid entire populations thanks to its terrifying Jericho Trumpets, the Stukas abruptly became outclassed. The turning point came during the Battle of Britain in 1940. Here, the Stuka faced off against superior British fighter aircraft, most notably the Spitfire and the Hurricane. These modern, faster, and more agile fighters exposed the Stuka's vulnerabilities, particularly its slower speed and lack of defensive armaments. The British fighters could easily intercept and shoot down the dive bombers, making daylight raids extremely perilous. The once feared Stuka suddenly found itself outmatched and at the mercy of enemy pilots. Despite these setbacks, the German Luftwaffe ingeniously evolved its deployment of the Stuka to ensure its continued relevance. Recognizing its weaknesses against more advanced enemy aircraft, the Stuka was often deployed in scenarios where it faced minimal risk from air opposition. This meant deployment in theaters where the Luftwaffe still maintained air superiority, or during times such as dawn or dusk when enemy fighter activity was expected to be low. Moreover, the Stuka underwent a series of design modifications and upgrades to prolong its operational life. For instance, newer variants like the Ju-87D and Ju-87G boasted enhanced armor, potent engines, and advanced weaponry. Some were even adapted into tank busters, armed with the formidable Bordkanone BK-3.7, a 37mm anti-tank autocannon, proving especially valuable on the Eastern Front against Soviet armor. The success of the Stuka in its later years, despite its aging technology, wasn't just about technological adaptation. It was also about the synergy of combined arms. When working with ground forces, especially the Panzer divisions, the Stuka provided invaluable close air support. It could swiftly pinpoint and eradicate enemy positions, providing a tactical advantage. As long as the Stuka was used intelligently, avoiding scenarios where enemy fighters could dominate the air, and trusting the instincts of their seasoned Stuka crews, the old dive bomber was able to maximize its performance way beyond what its parts accounted for, even as it faced technological obsolescence. By 1943, the menacing Stuka, once a daytime terror, was entirely outgunned and outmatched. But from this adversity, the Luftwaffe birthed the formidable Nachtschlachtgruppen, the night attack groups. With the tides turning after the Normandy landings, the western skies of Europe saw the shadows of 3 such elusive groups. These warbirds underwent a metamorphosis. They were no longer mere machines of war, but creatures of the night. With exhaust eliminators silencing their breath, ultraviolet lights dimly illuminating their instruments, and the new Nachttrevi gun sights guiding their eyes, they became near-invisible phantoms. Their strategy was simple, yet lethal. A sentinel plane would blaze the darkness with flares, spotlighting the prey below. Then, like the dive bombers, they would swoop down with their characteristic precision and fury. Their design lent them the stealth of an owl, perfect for low-level, slow flights that marked their nighttime raids. Even as the Wehrmacht found itself on the back foot, the nocturnal feats of the Ju-87 Stuka were etched into legend during the fierce clashes at Normandy and the icy Battle of the Bulge. Their once dated design was now celebrated for its unique aptitude. However, the legend of the Stuka extended beyond the European heartland. Renowned for its daunting Jericho Trumpets, it also reigned supreme against naval forces. From Norway's frigid seas, where they decimated formidable warships, to the English Channel's contested waters, where British maritime forces lived in perpetual dread, Stukas consigned countless Allied vessels to watery graves. The Mediterranean resonated with stories of the Stuka's dominance, epitomized by the bombing of HMS Illustrious. Not even the Soviet navies of the Black and Baltic Seas could escape the Stuka's lethal clutches. Admiring their unparalleled success against naval assets, British Admiral Andrew Cunningham once remarked, quote, "We could not but admire the skill and precision of it all." Until the war's last days, the haunting wail of the Ju-87 Stuka, known both as a fierce dive bomber and a night specter, struck fear into the hearts of Allied soldiers. Its legacy endures to this day.